Welcome to this week's episode of the Black and Gold Report. I'm your host, Dave Nguyen. Today we got a jam-packed show for you with highlights of the men's and women's basketball games against Francis Marion, a baseball season preview, and much more after this on the Black and Gold Report. Congratulations to Skylar Moreno of the women's track team. Moreno set a new school record in the 1,000-meter run with a time of 3:16.08. Joshua Chepkesir claimed the 3,000-meter title as the Braves had 24 top 10 finishes and 46 personal bests at the Finn Pocus Invitational. Another congratulations to UNCP senior forward Akia Pruitt for setting the Peach Belt Conference record for 919 rebounds. The senior forward has grown a lot since his freshman year and is very proud to receive this honor. Here's what he has to say about achieving this accomplishment.
I guess just explain your work ethic to achieve the record.
I mean, I knew coming in and recruiting me out of high school, they told me I was a hard-nosed player and play hard every possession, so I tried to build off of that, and rebounding is key for our team, so I try to do that every play.
I mean, naturally as a big guy, your job, or at least one of them, is to rebound. So what is it about rebounding that you take pride in?
Well, I honestly like getting double-doubles, and my freshman year I seen that I could get high numbers and double-doubles and stuff, so that's always been a goal since.
And what does it mean to get this record? Because you, as a leader of the team, it's all about we and all about not really being selfish. So what does it mean to get this personal record, not only for the school, but for the entire conference as well?
It just means that we're trending in the right direction. I mean, it wasn't a goal for me to reach this, but I'm very happy that I did.
The Braves returned home on Wednesday after a road trip to Georgia Southwestern. The Braves women's basketball team fell to Georgia Southwestern after going on a 2-game win streak. After the loss, here's how they responded against their arch rivals in Francis Marion. After a long road trip to Georgia Southwestern, the Braves return home to face their arch rival, the Francis Marion Patriots, on Military Appreciation Night. 2-3 zone by the Patriots is something that the Braves have struggled to attack this season so far. That's how you attack it right there, with Purnell getting the right elbow jumper to cut the deficit to 1. Purnell, top of the key, dribble, kicks it back out. Horn, dumping down low to Farmer. Kick out, Horn, 3, got it! With 2 on the shot clock, Melanie Horn gives the Braves their first lead of the game. Here comes Purnell. Down the middle of the lane, she'll stop, start again, picks up her dribble. Heath, left elbow, dump inside, left block over to McCain, back to Heath, fakes a jumper, kick out to McCain, and that left wing jumper is good. Dumps inside to Farmer, back center defender, kick out with 1 to shoot. Sierra Williams gets the shot to go, and another board by Shania Lester. Dump inside to Deja McCain. Ups, up, can't get it to fall. Moses Malone-esque, and she gets the second shot to go. Over half court, strives on the right side, turn around, stops, turn around again, and off glass and in. Braves going zone, triples off the line, and the rebound is called in by Courtney Smith. Here comes the Braves, 2-on-1. Smith, herself, yes! Horn, free throw line jumper, and that is the first bucket for the Braves here in the second half. Johnson gets the ball taken away from her. Williams gets the ball to Purnell. Over the logo with speed. Smith, left side of the lane, extra pass, Horn triple, got it! Purnell driving, right side of the lane, and gets it off glass and in. Kane, top of the key, over to Lester. Lester attacks, 8 to shoot, kicks it back out. Farmer, 5 to shoot. Dump inside to McCain, double teamed, has to put it up, and gets it to fall! Purnell, over to Horn, right wing triple, got it! Melanie Horn with 18 points. Braves will move to 9-10 and 4-7 in Peach Belt Conference play, while the Patriots of Francis Marion fall to 9-8 and 5-6 in conference play.
So, overall, good effort and proud of the girls.
Mel, being shut out probably is something that you never want to do. Sometimes you may need to tip your hat to the opposing team. it's not that you wanted to go out and try to score as much as possible, but when did you get into a groove with a game high of 18 today?
I'll say the third and fourth quarter. My teammates wanted to give me shots, coach wanted to give me shots, so I tried to take advantage of it.
The Braves men's basketball team entered Wednesday night's game on a 4-game win streak, averaging 91 points in those 4 contests. After coming off a win against Georgia Southwestern, large in part to Tyrell Kirk's 27 points, here's how the Braves wanted to continue their win streak against their arch rivals on Military Appreciation Night.
A rivalry renewed for the 82nd time. UNC Pembroke will take on the Francis Marion Patriots. 2 teams separated by just 45 minutes on I-95, and we have all the action for you right here on the UNCP Sports Network. Played in opponents as Mounts gets an early opportunity, and the Braves strike first. Ratliff goes baseline, elevates, and finger rolls it home around Hill. Good ball movement. A rare 3-point attempt from Micah Kinsey. Falls through. 2 of 15 from beyond the arc are the visitors as Pruitt bodies his way in. Out to Kirk, to his brother Tyrell. And Tyrell Kirk hits his second triple of the game. Not giving up anything easy inside. Here's Levi. And one. Here's Kinsey. Numbers. Micah. Rocks with it, lays it home, and the foul. Get it. Stripped by Ratliff. Here we go. But that will do it for tonight's rivalry matchup. The 82nd meeting between UNC Pembroke and Francis Marion goes to the Black and Golds on blackout night. As the Braves roll 84-70 the final of this one and pick up their 5th straight victory, now winners of 9 of the last 10 games.
Tyrell, like Coach just mentioned, you've been on fire really the month of January. And coming into this game shooting like 53% from beyond the arc, missing just 1 foul shot. What's been working for your game the past month or so?
Just my teammates finding me, motivating me to shoot more, and Coach Jones motivated me to shoot more and play defense and let my defense lead the offense. And it's just been a grinding out. It's just been a grinding out time at practice and stuff, getting a lot of reps, and yeah.
The Braves baseball team opened up their season on Friday, January 31st against Shepherd. Earlier this week, I caught up with head coach Paul O'Neill to preview the Braves season. And with head coach of the baseball team, Mr. Paul O'Neill. Paul, thank you for joining me. The season is right around the corner. Just talk about the excitement of the guys getting ready to get back on the diamond and playing against another opponent.
Well, it's always exciting this time of year. You work so hard in the fall, you get back in January, getting ready for the spring season, and when you're a week away, everybody's got some excitement and some anxiety about, hey, are we ready to go, and looking forward to playing the 2020 season.
Absolutely. And I think what helps out with the roster this year is you have about 17 guys from last year coming back. What does that mean overall to the development of your roster, knowing that you have guys returning in a significant amount?
I like our roster. I like the balance we have. We do have 17 returners. We had another, 20 new guys, that we brought in, to the roster. So we got basically a 50-50 balance with it. The one thing that's been really good for our program so far this year is our team chemistry has been very well, as far as what they did in the fall, as far as getting along with one another and how they've come together and so forth. So it's been a good mix.
And I think what else helps out with your roster is with Ethan Balcom and Trevor Clements coming back, 2 preseason Peach Belt All-Americans. Just talk about those guys in particular and how that allows you not only defensively but to stagger your lineup offensively.
Well, they're both very good players. Okay, very good players. They've both been in the program for a long time. As far as staggering them, they're not going to be staggered. They're going to bat right behind each other. Trevor's going to lead off, and Ethan's going to bat second. So that's going to be a little different wrinkle than we had a year ago. So they're going to be, 1-2 in the lineup. So you're going to have to go through both of them right there in the first inning. So having both those guys is great. They're both good leaders. They both got a lot of experience. They're just overall, they're really good human beings, and that's very important. They're great teammates, and that's what we're trying to strive for.
I think you touched on it earlier. You have a lot of new guys coming in, including some transfers. Who are some players that you can highlight that Braves fans can get to know?
Okay, well, as far as new guys, okay, on the position side, Gage Hammonds will start in left field for us. If the season started today, he would bat third in our lineup. And then another new face to the infield will be Wellington Guzman. Wellington will start at third base for us, and he'll bat towards the bottom of the lineup. We're going to play Trevor in the outfield, where last year he was primarily, catcher DH for us. He's worked really hard on his outfield skills, and we feel really comfortable as far as what he's going to be able to do being in the outfield for us. He's going to start in right field, which is then opening up our catching position. The two guys that worked really hard this fall with their catching was Alex Simpson and Garrett Littleton. Both of those guys did a phenomenal job this fall, and which gives me all the confidence in the world in those two guys to hold down our catching situation. So we basically have gone from Trevor being our number one catcher to now Trevor will be our number three catcher. And it's just because of the performance that those guys did this fall behind the plate. They caught every single game, every single inter-squad game that we had this fall, and both of them have shown a tremendous amount of improvement, in their games.
Talk about those position changes specifically, because what was in the mind of the transition from moving Clemens from catcher to the outfield?
Well, the whole thought process was Trevor couldn't catch every single day, and we really like Bobby Dixon in our DH role. So it was a thing where, okay, if Trevor's not catching and we have to use him as a DH, then we're taking Bobby out of the lineup. And so we started to experiment, during the fall with, well, can Trevor play one game a week in the outfield? And so we put him out there in the outfield the entire fall. And the performance of the other two catchers in Littleton and Simpson made the decision very easy for me, where I went from Trevor playing one game a week in the outfield to now Trevor's going to be able to play the entire time in the outfield for us. And so that was the biggest surprise of the fall. Those guys, as far as they stepped up their game and what they did to give me the confidence that they can hold down the catching position.
Absolutely. With Davis Hurd and Ethan Ruth coming back as starting pitchers for your rotation, I guess go into a little bit about your pitching rotation. Those two guys were starters last year as sophomores. Improvement from them as juniors this year is to help out the rest of the pitching staff.
Okay. Well, both of those guys, as of right now, will not be in the rotation. Okay, for us. All right. The rotation right now has not been set. Guys that are in the mix, okay, for the rotation, Randy Floyd is in the mix for it. Jacob Morrison is in the mix for it. Jalen Scott is in the mix for it. Landon Smith is definitely a swing guy for us, whether he's in the rotation or at the back end of the bullpen. So those are four guys. Jake Mayhew, a transfer, is in the mix. And Darren Bowen is in the mix for us as far as possibly being a midweek starter for us. So those are kind of the guys that right now have separated themselves a little bit as far as who could be starters, within it. The one thing I do like about our pitching staff, I feel like there's a lot of parity, with our pitching staff that has allowed us to have a little more flexibility. If things can hold true for us, then we would like to use Landon out of the bullpen, for us this year. I think the back part of our bullpen with Landon being there, we get River Ryan back this year, who was a position player for us last year, but he was injured and he wasn't allowed to pitch for the entire season. He's back to full strength on the mound, so he'll definitely be a big addition for us in the back end of our bullpen. And then the addition of Bucky Bonage, another transfer for us, a guy at the back end who's got a lot of he's got, I guess, good numbers in junior college. He had a good fall, so forth. Got a lot of confidence in him being able to throw high-stress innings late in the game.
Absolutely. What is it about baseball that you love? You've been around the game so long. Is there one particular thing that you love about the game because it's considered America's pastime?
Well, I think the thing that I enjoy about the game so much is working with the guys throughout the week, throughout the fall, on their certain skill sets. Whether they're a position player, whether they're a pitcher, is irrelevant. And seeing a guy's development go from point A to point B, and seeing them experience that success, in a game setting, where they've been working on something in practice for a week, 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden they get into a game and it starts to click for them. I said that is very rewarding for me as a coach. So I enjoy that aspect of it on the development side of it. I also enjoy game day as far as the excitement of what's going to happen next. The one thing that everyone needs to remember is they are young adults that are out there. They're not professionals. So they're not going to be perfect when they go out there, and it is you hope they have success every single time, but sometimes they don't have success, and there's ups and downs to everything that we go through, as coaches, as a team, and so forth, and you have to be able to embrace it, over the long haul.
I think that's another point you touched upon, that baseball is a game of overcoming maybe the most failure.
Absolutely.
I think with baseball, what is it about trying to keep maybe a short-term memory, whether it's a player had a strikeout before or a player had a hit before their previous at-bat, trying to lock it in, or maybe they struck out their previous at-bat. The short-term memory part of baseball, I find it very unique.
Well, it is a game that is set up on failure. It's a statistical game that is set up for you to not be successful, where you will have more failure than you will have success statistically. And you do have to have the short-term memory, like you said, as far as can you separate the two? Can you separate your offense from your defense? Very important parts, to that. That if you, hey, I hit a home run the last time, not getting too high on yourself, versus, hey, I struck out the last time, and then carrying that into the field and being just distraught that you struck out, and now you mess up on defense. You forget something, you're supposed to cover a base or do something, and now you've hurt the team on defense. So it's basically what we talk to our kids a lot about is don't get too high, don't get too low, try to stay as even-keeled as you can, enjoy yourself while you're playing, play hard, expect to have success while you're out there, and just keep going forward. Just keep looking forward, keep playing forward on everything. And, at the end of the day, if you prepare the right way, you will have more success than you will have failure, when the season comes to an end.
Absolutely. My last question for you, reeling back to this season, the Peach Belt Conference is very competitive. A lot of teams coming back. Some of them are highly ranked in the polls. Just what does that bring out as far as the competition side when you have Peach Belt Conference opponents coming in or you traveling to them? I feel like competition brings out the best in your players, both on and off the diamond.
Well, the schedule is very competitive. The league speaks for itself. It's always, one of the top leagues in the country as far as, the teams that we put out there and the national polls and so forth. The biggest thing I can tell you is you've got to be prepared for every single team that you play in this league. You've got to bring your best game. Doesn't matter whether they're picked 11th in the league or they're picked first in the league. They still have very good players, and there's a lot of parity that is set up in the league to where the 11th place team that gets picked 11th has the capability of beating the first place team. And in some of the other leagues that are in our region, that's not the case. There's a big division between the tops and the bottoms. And with our league, there's a lot of parity from top to bottom that makes it very interesting, throughout the season. And it's a long year. But there's some very good coaches in our league. There's some really good programs that have a ton of tradition on their sides. They got great facilities. Baseball is a priority at their schools. And so it's a thing where it's a challenge for us every single time we step into conference play. We know that we must play our very best baseball if we want to come out on top and be successful with it. And that's the approach that we take. That's the approach we take with every single game that we have on our schedule, that we feel that we need to play our best if we want to win. And so we try to prepare ourselves every single day out there at practice to train ourselves, to train our mind that we must be able to stay focused for a long period of time and be able to concentrate on the fundamentals that we need to be able to do in order to be successful.
Braves women's soccer head coach Lars Anderson has lived a very interesting life. Here, he talks about how the game of soccer and hockey has impacted his life both as a collegiate player and as an adult in this week's edition of Meet the Braves.
I think that's the unique part about the game of soccer, because it really does take all 11 to accomplish the goal of achieving victory. Can you recall whether it was your first memory when you played soccer or the first time you and your team won a game?
I can recall really playing soccer in my backyard when I was 5, and I played with my brother, who would have been 8, and I played with the 2 neighborhood kids, Jakob and Henrik. Jakob actually, funny enough, became he's a famous musician in Sweden. He's a Grammy Award-winning musician in Sweden. I'm still in touch with both of those boys. Jakob was 4 years older than I was, so he teamed up and played against Henrik and I, who is a year older than I am. So we played 2-on-1 against him with my brother in goal, and we would play for hours in our backyards. Our backyards were adjacent to each other, and that's really my first memory of just playing pickup soccer. And I think I was 6 when I started playing organized, and I always loved it. And played as much as I could. I think one of the things that I've always found a little strange about many places in America is that it's hard to find a place where you're allowed to just play pickup soccer. If you go to a park or if you go to a lot of soccer facilities, they're not open to the public, and that's not the case back home. There are soccer pitches everywhere where you can just step on the pitch and play. And as soon as the snow melted and it got warm enough to play soccer, that's what we did. I mean, when school was out, we played soccer, and we played till it got dark. And of course, in Sweden, we have up north we have the midsummer light, so it isn't dark for about an 8-week period. It's 24 hours of the midnight sun. So I have many fond memories, and obviously I have memories later in my senior career as a player, but my early memories are playing in the backyard with our 2 neighborhood kids or neighboring kids and my older brother.
Now, you mentioned snow. Living in Sweden, I think winters there are abnormal to what it's like in the United States. Can you just tell me the temperatures sometimes that you dealt with in the winter?
Well, the coldest I've ever experienced was 49 below Celsius. This when I was stationed in the military. I was a ranger in the Swedish military, and I was stationed in a town called Kiruna, which is Sweden's northernmost town. It's probably about a 5.5-hour drive north of the Arctic Circle, and that's without wind chill. So I don't know what the temperature was with wind chill, but when you live in that climate, I'm not going to tell you that 49 below isn't cold. It's cold, all right, but you know how to dress, you know how to behave, you know what the dangers are when it's that cold. So I never felt uncomfortable in that kind of weather. I was used to it. Now, if I go back now, 30 years later, yes, it's uncomfortable. Hence, I try to visit Sweden in the summers.
Of course. Lastly, in regards to the winters and hockey in particular, I always find it fascinating when hockey is played outside on a pond or at a local rink just outside. I think that's why the NHL has brought back the Winter Classic to allow the professional hockey players to play as if they were kids growing up. Can you recall a couple experiences like that when you're outside with your friends playing hockey, whether it's on a pond or in a rink outside? Because I personally find it very fascinating.
In the neighborhood that I lived, the men, the husbands, would pour water. We had a big grass field between some of the houses, and so we didn't have a pond nearby, but it's so cold. They just poured grass on the water and made a rink. There's a funny memory when I was a little kid. My mom had packed me a couple of sandwiches, and I mean, it was 300 yards maybe from my house, and I went and played hockey, and I had played for hours, and I finally came home, and it was really, really cold, and my mom looked at me, and she had put the sandwiches in a paper bag, and she said, "Where's the paper bag?" And I'd buried it in the snow, thinking that she would never know. And my mom was ahead of her time. She was cared about the environment, so she made me walk back and dig in the snow until I found the paper bag. And I was so cold, and all I wanted to do was come inside and drink hot cocoa. But my mom wouldn't let me come inside until I dug out that paper bag that I'd buried in the snow. So that's one of my early childhood memories of playing hockey. But in my hometown, we didn't have an indoor rink. All the games and I played hockey until I was 15, I think, and we played all of our games at the local outdoor rink. And then we had in my hometown, there's a lake, I mean, smack dab in the center of town, and a lot of times the lake freezes before there's snow, so you may have a 3 or 4 week period there where you can skate on the lake, and you will have every kid in town is out there with a puck and a stick or just skating. I mean, you'd have adults that would just come out there and skate. So yeah, I have a lot of fond memories of hockey and winters and what it meant to grow up in northern Sweden.
Before we end the show, here's a look at the week ahead in Braves athletics. On Sunday, February 2nd, the Braves softball team is home for a doubleheader against West Virginia State. The first game starts at 9 a.m., followed by the second game at 11:30 a.m. The baseball team finishes up their opening weekend series against Shepherd at 1 p.m. on Sunday as well. There's also a jam-packed Wednesday for UNCP athletics. The softball team has a home game against Chowan at 2, while the baseball team has a home game against Queens at 3. Later on that night, the Braves basketball teams take on Flagler in the Think Pink night, with the women's basketball game starting at 5:30, followed by the men's game at 7:30. The wrestling team is away at Lander, and their match begins at 7 p.m. On Friday and Saturday, the Braves track team travels to Winston-Salem for the Camel City Invitational. The baseball team will start a 3-game set against Lock Haven, with the first game starting on Friday at 3 p.m. and the second game on Saturday at 1 p.m. Also on Saturday, the Braves softball team travels to Newberry for a doubleheader, with the first game beginning at 1 and the second game beginning at 3. And finally, the Braves basketball teams travel to North Georgia, with the women starting at 1:30 and the men following at 3:30. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Black and Gold Report. For the entire staff and crew, I'm Dave Nguyen. Everyone have a great day and tune in next week.